Myth or fact? The miserable conditions that the Palestinians refugees live in are Israel's fault. You cannot have a happy normal life unless you and your children and your grandchildren live in the same house that you were born in, or at least in the same neighborhood. As the result of the war of 1948, about 750,000 Palestinians left their home and ended up as refugees in neighboring Arab countries. At the same time, in the following years, hundreds of thousands of Jews from Arab countries left their homes and ended up as refugees in Israel, in addition to the hundreds of thousands Holocaust survivors. Many Jews from Arab countries emigrated to countries other than Israel. Today, only very few of the 900,000 of the Jews who lived in Arab countries prior to 1948 still live there. The conditions in the refugee camps were harsh. The camps evolved naturally from tents to makeshift housing to slums. The left pictures show Palestinians' refugee camps. The right ones show Ma'abarot, refugee camps of Jews in Israel. The meaning of the word Ma'abarot is transition places. That is not only a matter of semantics, it's a matter of attitude. Israel and the Jews around the world got involved in a Herculean effort of solving the problem of Jewish refugees and of integrating them with the rest of Israel. In less than 10 years, all the Ma'abarot were closed and their inhabitants moved to permanent housing, integrating with the rest of the people. Arab countries, through the UN and on their own, enacted policies that their purpose was to perpetuate the Palestinian refugees' problem. These policies keep the refugees apart from population of the countries in which they live. The number of supported refugees grew from less than 1 million in 1948 to approximately 5 million now. In my research, when I first read this story, I couldn't believe it. Such UN resolutions could not exist. I checked the UN website and they are there. This is the link. What is it all about? In 1976, Israel initiated a program to resettle Palestinian refugees around the refugee camps in the West Bank and Gaza. Israel developed the infrastructure of modern communities, including roads, water, sewer, and schools, and provided loans to individual refugees for buying building materials. The refugees, many of whom are professional builders, had to build their own homes by themselves. Thousands of refugees participated in the program. The PLO opposed it and the UN condemned Israel for doing it. Israel had to stop the program. Similar to the situation around Mexico and the US border, there are many Palestinians who would like to work in Israel. The distances in Israel are much smaller than in the US, and it is a short commute, up to 1 hour, from the refugee camps to workplaces in Israel. After the 6 Days War, Israel opened its border to Palestinian workers. Tens of thousands of Palestinians came to work in Israel. That improved significantly the standard of living of the Palestinians in Gaza Strip and in the West Bank. Erez Crossing is the crossing point for people between Gaza and Israel. With time, a small industrial zone grew up naturally on the Israeli side of the crossing. That made it even easier for more Palestinians, including women, to find employment in Israel and to improve their living condition. But the Palestinian leadership did not like it. They car bombed it, suicide bombed it, drive-by shot it, and threatened Palestinians not to work in Israel. Eventually, the Palestinian leadership itself put an end to this step of normalization of relation between the two peoples. They did it with total disregard to the benefit to their own people. They want us to forget this chapter in their history. A main thrust in the campaign of the Palestinians for gaining the sympathy of the world's public opinion is what is called the right of return. It claims that every refugee and their descendants have the right to return to the homes that they have left behind. They have posters that illustrate the idea, cartoons that attack leaders that are suspected of not sticking to it, and demonstrations in Gaza and the West Bank and around the world. The Palestinian leadership keeps promising to their people that if they endure in their current suffering, they'll eventually return to the homes that they or their parents or their grandparents have left. This idea plays on sentiment that every one of us has. But how realistic it is? Consider the situation in the area and in the world. The right column shows Ashkelon, Beersheba, and Ashdod in 1948 as their Palestinian inhabitants left them. The left column shows the same places today, 65 years later. What could be more cynical than telling someone that you will return to the house that you have left, just continue to suffer patiently? In modern industrial countries, most adults don't live in the houses that they or their parents or their grandparents were born in. They just do not consider it a must. Also, people who live less than 50 miles from where they were born don't consider it a different place. It does take an experienced political scientist to understand what is behind this claim. The following poster is used by the Palestinians for their own people. The key symbolizes the idea of the right of return. It is both a key and a rifle. The triangle to the left is a map of Israel, painted green, the color of Islam like the flag of Saudi Arabia and Gaddafi's Libya. The golden building is the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. The flag is the Palestinian flag. The message: the right of return will turn Israel into an Islamic Palestinian state whose capital is Jerusalem. How? Just let 5 million Palestinian refugees into the democratic Israel. They'll peacefully seize control of the government and turn it into an Islamic state. Time and again, the actions of the Arab states and the Palestinian leadership have shown that they are not really interested in solving the refugees' problem. That leadership enacts policies that deprive the refugees of their human rights and dignity. They keep the refugees in ghettos, in subhumane conditions, apart from the rest of the society. It is nothing short of apartheid imposed by the Arab and Palestinian leadership on their own people.